Hola there. Welcome to the Siyaguquka Book Club Library Book Reviews. Yeah, man. Today we are reviewing a very special book. It is called I Am an African. It's by Ngila Micheal Muendane. Yeah, man. The book was published in 2006 and it was published by Soul Talk Publishers. Yeah, man. I read the book for the first time in 2008 and it was a privilege to come across this book. And what the book is about, overcoming circumstances and finding personal freedom as Africans through the power of response. Michael suggests bold solutions for the decolonization of the African mind. That's something that I wrote down there a bit. So in summary, that's what the book is about. It's quite a good book. I suggest that you get yourself a copy wherever you can. The copy that I have is quite old, man. It's been traveling. I've been borrowing people. I once borrowed a friend, and the book nearly never came back. I didn't speak to a guy for about 2 years and eventually brought the book back because he said it was lost. He don't know where is it, but he eventually found it. But I'm grateful that he did find it because this is a special book because it was signed by Ngila Micheal Muendane himself. Unfortunately, the lighting is very bright on the page. You guys won't be able to see that, but I will create a video on the side for you to see the signature. So the book has but a lot of significance, value to me. And when it made its way back, so even now, unfortunately, I don't borrow anyone, because this is one of the books that when you actually do get it, you do want to keep it. Man. Before we go into the book, and you guys and give you more of what it's about, I just want to read from the preface. There's a few sentences that I want to read from, just explaining what more the book is about. Like I said, this is the second book. So he wrote the first book called Discover Your Purpose, Destroy Failure, which its aim was to address the disempowering attitude rampant in our present societies, that circumstances had power over us and that we do not have much choice as to what outcomes we experience in our lives. In that book, I demonstrate that through our response, we do have the power to overcome circumstances. It is only through that paradigm that we can experience personal freedom and peace of mind, which is what everyone is really striving for in all our endeavors. In this small volume, I go further to deal with the word of the African and demonstrate, using the same approach as the power of response, that although colonialism has taken its toll on African people historically, they do not have to continue their lives submitting to the supposed power of those associated with their misery. While in the first book, I deal with the individual persona, in this volume, I deal with the African persona. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of Discover Your Purpose, Destroy Failure. I have read it. I used to work for bookstore, and that's where I read the book. But I bought the second one because this one, I'm an African, actually goes deeper, because rather than focusing on the psychological aspect of yourself as to how you can discover yourself and escape failure, you cannot do that if your identity is also not intact. So accepting your identity and embracing it will also assist in finding that freedom, in avoiding being victimized. So on this one, I'm an African. He goes deep in it, looking at it as an African, looking at you not only as a person, as an individual, but also as an African, as to how you can embrace your identity and escape victimization. So yeah, man, yeah, same book. I think that one was published in 2004, 2005. But yeah, so I'm an African is a continuation from Discover Your Purpose, Destroy Failure. So yeah, discover your purpose and destroy failure as an African. Embrace identity, escape victimization. That's me remixing all of it together, yabo. It's like if it was a double album type of thing, yabo. Yeah. So another part I wanna share, like you should get the book. You should get the book. Just the prefaces, don't even the intro. So the book is a must have. Is a must have. If I had money, I will spread it all across Africa to all Africans, because this is where we actually combine psychology and politics. And when the book starts, he actually starts with a speech. This is a speech that Pixley Isakaseme gave at the Regeneration of Africa, which was a subject which was being discussed at the University of Columbia, USA in April 1906, where he actually spoke about African and the pride of being of being an African, and how and why we must regenerate ourselves as Africans, because we are a proud race, and that's very inspiring. It goes a bit like, I'm an African and I set my pride in my race over against the hostile public opinion in all races. Genius is like a spark which, concealed in the blossom of flint, bursts forth at the summoning of stroke. Yeah. So yeah, this is when the actual book starts, and then you have the preface and introduction. It's quite cool. And yeah, another part I would like to read from the preface that I found, because he says that I pose the question, why Africans who have been victimized by slave owners, colonialists, and settlers, and still feel victimized by their descendants, however themselves continue to victimize one another. So basically the book is about that, as to why we keep victimizing ourselves as Africans, and how we're victimized by other races, and how we're victimized by economy, how we are being victimized spiritually, and mentally, everywhere, and as to how we can find a way to shift that paradigm, and create yourself a brighter living, which will bring a brighter future for our future generation, where they will also be able to embrace the greatness of themselves, because their ancestors were great as themselves, and yeah. So yeah, basically what I like about the book, the big thing I love about the book is that it provides solution, by connecting psychology and politics into one spectrum, and that includes social issues. And it's more like reading black consciousness, it's more like reading a black consciousness self-help book, like imagine that the black consciousness self-help book is like putting in I write what I like with the power of your subconscious mind and hlanganising into one, and then figuring there a bit of habits of effective people laws, just putting it together, and for me, that's what makes it such a special book, because there's other books like The Capitalist Nigger, or of course I've mentioned I Write What I Like, and you can read about Babu Robert Bukwe, you can read about Anton Lembede, talking about the land and Africans, how we need to embrace ourselves and love ourselves and look out for us first, and how our problems to our solutions can only be resolved by us if we unite as one, and but with this book, it's the psychology of things, where we talking about how, because if you look at oppression, slavery. Slavery was the slave master taking you from your village or wherever you stay and go selling you overseas, and you're turning a slave. And as you become a slave, you lose your identity, you lose your religion, you lose your spirituality. Therefore, you also lose your psychological health, your mental health, and you look at apartheid as well. What apartheid did very well was to instill fear in people's minds, because people felt like they can't fight the system because it's just like this big monster that they can't tackle. And only the smart ones who, if you look at the history of all the great leaders, Abo, Dube, we can go on, Sobukwe and all the others, including Biko himself. They had privileges of going to missionary schools and going to varsities and being exposed, becoming more wiser and being exposed to the world out there. And they were able then to form liberation movements and also try to conscientize the people and fight for the people's rights. And when you look at that, what was happening is, with them being smart according to the colonial terms, them being smart, they were able then to mobilize other black people with similar ideas and share and enlighten the other black people who were mostly illiterate or not aware of what's happening, or who are aware of what's happening but were not aware of the power that they have in changing and fighting the system as it is and claiming their greatness, as they are great themselves. So the best way to destroy black people and keep them as subjects, as slaves, as oppressed people during apartheid and racism, it was also a way of killing their identity. By killing their identity, you are killing their pride. By killing their pride, you are killing their confidence. By killing their confidence, then you are controlling them. Then you are able to oppress them. Then they follow through. That is why Steve Biko also has a quote. There's a quote that I like from him where he says, the most potent weapon in the minds of the oppressor. I'm actually saying it wrong. It says the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So that is why for me, I'm an African. This book is of significance because looking at that quote alone, that line alone, it takes that and tries to deal with how then you can change your mindset, how you can change the way you think, the way you view yourself. Because you find black people, you go to a shop, you're being serviced by a black person, they're not going to give you the best service. But if a white person walks in, they will give them the best service. And this still happens in 2023. I'm telling you, even a taxi, if you bought a taxi and you're with your white friend, you guys will get great service in a taxi. But normally you wouldn't, But not saying that there isn't any good service in taxis. There's quite a lot of good taxi drivers. But you get the point that, it's just the way it is. Yeah. So and then another issue, the book is divided into how many chapters. I'm just trying to find my way up in here so we can break it down as to how many chapters are there. It has it's section 1, 2, section 3, 4, and section 5. It has 5 sections. In those 5 sections, the first section is the importance of mindset and self-knowledge. Yeah, which basically continues of what I've been talking about. Because if we change our mindset, because apartheid is gone, but it still exists in our minds. Racism is gone on paper, but it still exists, and who keeps it existing is us. So the way Steve Biko once he was asked as to what will happen if they will take power as the Black Consciousness Movement, and he said that the first thing they'll do, they will combine all the liberation movements to form one liberation movement so that they can fight for the same cause, for the one common cause, which is for the upliftment of Black people, So if that upliftment doesn't, and when he was asked, he was like, he will combine all the liberation movements and form one movement party that will govern and that will fight for the cause, of Black people, and that will fight with a common strategy, so that all Black people will have a common goal as to what they want to achieve and where they want to go as a nation, and as the people. And what I found profound in that interview, he was interviewed as well, is that he said that one of the things he will do, he will ensure that he lets white people unlearn what they have learned, and let Black people let people unlearn what they have learned. Black people unlearn what they have learned. White people unlearn what they have learned, and Black people unlearn what they have learned. What did Black people learn? Black people learned that white people are more superior. White people learned that Black people are more inferior. Therefore, you cannot continue, even if you do get liberation and get the freedom. You'll only have a few Blacks who will be the Black bourgeoisie who will benefit, and then the rest of the masses will suffer and will still be poor. And that is because, if you look at how it's happening now in 2023, that's exactly what is still happening. That is why the apartheid, the oppression, the racism, it's in the institutions, it's in the people's minds, it's in the homes, it's in our phones, it's in our heads, it's in our mouths, it's in our tongues, it's in our dreams. That is why we are still finding ourselves in the same situation that we are in as Africans and specifically as Black people. Therefore, it is important that as Black people, we unlearn that Black people are inferior and white people are superior. Therefore, even if you are serving a Black person, you will give them the best service as you were serving a white person. And as a white person, when you see a Black person, give respect, give them the same respect you will give to another white person. Simple as that. So this book, I'm an African, goes deep into the mindset. So this part about the importance of mindset and self-knowledge, it actually recognizes that you are a king, you are the queen, you are not inferior, you are also worthy and deserving to be respected and be considered superior, because you are. And so it starts with the mind, how we change the way we view things, how we change the way we look at ourselves, we look at the environment around us. The second section, are they doing it to us or are we doing it to ourselves? Great question, because it talks about colonial roots, the negative meaning attached to African, what's in a name. Do you call yourself Black? Do you call yourself African, African American, American? We have Afrikaners, Africans. So what's in the name? So it's quite interesting. You must get the book. Section number 3, the rationale and basis for believing in ourselves. Self-definition and identity, African ingenuity. One thing I like about, okay, some people might want to, but the Afrikaners understood that they are no longer Dutch, and some of the Dutch got mixed up with some of the Khoi. It became a mix, and there was some French there, some German, mixed masala, and you have the Griquas there in the corner there, mixed masala. So the NP and the Broederbond formed what is called the National Party, which was designed to bring forth Afrikaner nationalism. And what they did was they took Afrikaners and then Griquas and all different types and put them under one umbrella, and say we are Afrikaners. And by saying Afrikaners, Africans is taken from African, which it's not their birthplace, but they're claiming it as their birthplace, and that gives them identity. By doing so, prosperity comes. And they did what they did. Yes, they oppressed black people. They couldn't become rich and wealthy if it wasn't for the oppression they did to us as black people. But they were oppressed themselves. They were second-class citizens under the British colony, who were in the same war camps where when you arrested prisoners of war, the camps, black people and Afrikaners were somewhere in the same camps. There's a book about it. I think we might do a review about it soon, where we were all kept in there, but by combining the Afrikaners and forming the Afrikaner nationalism, it actually empowered the Africans, the Afrikaners, but the main point here is that the identity, they had to create an identity and identify themselves and not call themselves Dutch, what European, because they are here in African and Afrikaners, hence, they are a mixed breed of it, other people who are not different Afrikaners are also Afrikaners, because of associating with that identity. It's kind of like similar to a lot of black people who decided to be colored. I have a family actually, who live in a colored community, but you can't blame them too. They were doing it for economic reasons, But so it's very important for us now, the issue of identity and identifying yourself. Because if you need help psychologically as an individual, we always go to your younger self, isn't it? We always go to the younger self. And they ask you questions about, tell us about Thabiso when he was 6 years, what happened, all of that. So even now, as a black person, you cannot only deal with your issues of mental health and not deal with your issues of being black, because some issues of your mental health also are contributed by things that you're going through as an African, as a black man in Africa, and how the system is designed, was designed, still is designed to keep you oppressed, and how you can find yourself a way of liberation by walking the long walk of mental freedom. So the fifth part is called the salvation, which is the response. How do you respond to it? How do you respond to all this thing? How do you, now that you know your identity, you've identified yourself and the rationale and the basis for believing in yourself, and through the mindset and self-knowledge, now how do you respond? Paradigm shift, Baba. Paradigm shift. And section 5, exit victimization with dignity. So obvious, from paradigm shift, now you're responding, what will happen? Victimization, Baba. If someone is scared of something or someone, and they see that you are scared, when they smell your fear and they go attack. But then if they also check, I can't smell the fear, they also check their steps. They don't just attack. So, I like the fact that he closes with that to say that section 5, exit victimization with dignity. So it has 3 other chapters or parts: the terrain, the 2 nations, 1 state, and the big picture. So this is a great. There's a part here about acceptance of inferiority. This English, inferior. I like that part. I think this one is on chapter or section, or the colonial roots. The colonial roots, which is in chapter section 2. Section 2, are they doing it to us or are we doing it to ourselves? So it starts with the colonial roots, colonial philosophy as references. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm not gonna go much more into it, but definitely I think you should check it out, try to get it. But the part on acceptance of inferiority, I just want to read a bit. A more long-term strategy was applied variously by the European colonialists to cause the indigenous populations to look down on themselves, while at the same time aspiring for acceptance as equals or respectable people by the Europeans. This policy was implemented under different labels by different colonial regimes. For the French, it was assimilation, and for the Portuguese, it was the policy of assimilado, while the British implemented it under the policy of so-called Christian trusteeship. Acceptance of inferiority. Now that most Africans had accepted white supremacy, building upon this broad policy of subjugation, European colonizers set about putting in places various laws that ensure that their new subjects remain under the yoke of foreign domination with nothing to call their own. Nothing to call their own. So, yeah, nothing to call their own. Yeah, man, it's still relevant, isn't it? Still relevant because that's the inferiority complex we still find ourselves in, and especially with the current administration. But I'm not going to get into that because I'm very poor too. So I would like to get a tender, so I can feed my family and change the community and buy books for all the children in the hood. So, yeah. But I hope you get the point. Now, on the part of the response, okay, I wanted to read something on that, but I'm not going to get into that. I just want to read the one part where it's the use of African languages. Yeah, but okay, I'm not going to read that as well. But I want to skip to the part where, as I've said, towards the end of the book, talks about solutions. Because, like I've said, there's other books like The Capitalist Nigger, which talks about how as black people we're the biggest consumers. We consume a lot, but we actually spending money and giving it to other races. Fair book, great book. But what I like about Ngila Muendane's book is it's not just looking at it economically, but also looking at it psychologically, politically, all combined into one, and giving you solutions, a way forward, even for you personally, as a human being. But in this case, first as an African, and how then, but no, first as an individual, and how then that can assist in you as an African, and how you interact with the world as an African, how you interact with money, with the economy, your spiritual self, your psychological self, your physical self also. Because we have medicine that actually works and cures, and we've been told for years that it's not good, it's not great, it's bad. But now most of the Western medicine is becoming herbal. Africa. I mean, even marijuana is considered as something we can use for medicine, but our ancestors have been using it for years. I know spiritual people who've been using it, who are still using it, sangomas and all of that. But yeah, it's important for us to know ourselves, and that will assist us with everything: the economy, spirituality, everything is connected to self. Because it all starts here. It's even in the Bible, man, whether you believe it or not, in the Bible. But It is that, because it even says in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God said, "Let there be light." So watch what you say and how you think, because your thinking is already you saying something. Let me not go there, but yeah. So instill African pride in children. I like that part. You should get the book towards the end where he deals on that, about boys and girls and buying dolls for girls. How growing up back in the days, they used to only be white, blonde haired Barbie dolls, and how that, it's part of the ways of keeping the agenda of lack of African pride going, and how we can do little things by buying black dolls, finding black superheroes. Because I once had this argument with a friend of mine about how I'm a father of two boys, and I've been finding it difficult to find superheroes, even if there is a superhero like Wakanda, what was the thing, but you wouldn't find a lot of gear, bags, clothes, stuff that you can buy and they can look and identify with, of black superheroes. So it also shows that we need a lot of animators, graphic designers and all that to create more cartoons, animation of black heroes that our children can also grow up idolizing, and it's quite sad that it's still the issue now. Even if you want to get a black doll, you can get now, but it's probably more expensive. It has to be, like you can't go into any shop and buy, like even if you go to a China shop, try to find a black one, but you see, you go to a China shop, you probably won't find a black doll, or it's one of those. But I know there are a few people who are doing actually black dolls, which is quite cool. And I know there's some black Barbie dolls, which is quite cool. But it's smaller things, it's a small thing. Dolls, come on, guys. Yeah. But it sort of helps in a way to condition our children as well, and conscientizing them from an early age. Because if we don't, who's gonna do it? You ask yourself why kids who are born after 94, who are born after the year 2000 or so, are committing racism acts in universities, and you ask yourself, where did they land it? So yeah, man, I think that's also great. As I said, still, man, get yourself a book, get yourself the book. I'm an African. Well, let's see, these are some of the thoughts on the message behind the book. Personally, when I first read the book in 2008, I was inspired to an extent that when I met Babu Micheal Ngila Muendane physically for the first time, I felt so uplifted that my melanin has never grown so much ever since. Like it is never. It's a great book, because it's a book that challenges you. It's a book that challenges your thinking and makes you ask personal questions about your African self in this global community, and provides you solutions to enhance your existence as an African in this global world. I wrote that down because I was like, I need to say, but because I know I always go on and on and freestyle all the way up. It's a great book, man. It's a great book. How many sharps will I give it? Giving it 5 sharps. 5 sharps. I find 5. All the sharps. There's only 5 sharps, so you get all the 5 sharps. 5 sharps buffet too. This is a must get. I know with Soul Talk, at some point, I don't know if they're still publishing books. I will try and find out. I'll give you guys more details about this, but I think you can still get the book, or try to get to Babu Ngila Micheal Muendane on your socials and try to link up with him and try to get yourself a book. I think this book should be distributed to all schools and to all houses, and every house should have this book. So yeah, man, that's it from me today. Thabs The Bookseller, the unqualified nerd, straight from the ghettos, dusty tap side, Tippy song baby. Yeah man, Siyaguquka Book Club Library, book reviews. Remember, you can always come through to the book club library at Tepisong, Johannesburg, Soweto, Gauteng, and you can borrow a book. Become a member of Ep02. We are sharing. You can also share some books. I still have a lot of books I gotta review. All the books that I'm reviewing are books that are in the Siyaguquka Book Club Library. Some of the books I won't borrow you though, like this one. Hey, you see how old it is? Hey, bruh, you cherish this. So yeah man. But I might borrow you. But yeah, if you don't stay around where I stay, and yeah, please checking out the channel, see what I do, see all the books. Got a lot of other books I gotta do. I still have Credo Motor. We're gonna be doing discussions with some of the book club members, which are people in the community who've become members who love reading. We'll be having discussions and all of that. So yeah man, look out for the space for more programs and more things that are about to happen. Thank you very much, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and hit the bell so that you can get notifications when the next episodes, when the next shows, when the next exciting books, when the next rhymes, when the next poetry, when the next consciousness, when the next upliftment, when the next betterness happens. Yo, let me stop wasting time. But yo, thank you very much. Stay blessed. One love. Crusher was its website. Free mental entertainment. What?